Jess Staley's emails with Jeffrey Epstein revealed in New York. Filing includes details from 1,200 emails exchanged between late sex offender and former Barclays boss. Emails exchanged by former Barclays chief executive Jess Staley and the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein have been revealed in greater detail in a lawsuit filed by the US Virgin Islands against JP Morgan Chase. Newly unredacted portions of a complaint brought by the government of the Virgin Islands, where Epstein had a home, contains excerpts of several of the 1,200 emails between the men from 2008 to 2012, when Staley was Epstein's private banker at JP Morgan. In July 2010, Staley sent a message to Epstein that read, "Maybe they're tracking you? That was fun. Say hi to Snow White." Epstein asked in return, "What character would you like next?" To which Staley said, "Beauty and the Beast." Epstein replied, "Well, one side is available." According to the Virgin Islands, the exchange was referring to young women and girls Epstein was providing. It alleges that the emails demonstrate a close personal relationship and profound friendship between the two men, and even suggest that Staley may have been involved in Epstein's sex trafficking operation. The Snow White email was first reported by the FT in November 2021. The new parts of the lawsuit were revealed on Wednesday and add pressure to JP Morgan, which the Virgin Islands says is liable for facilitating Epstein's sexual abuse by failing to spot and act on red flags. The filing also comes more than a year after Staley resigned from Barclays after seeing preliminary conclusions of an investigation by UK regulators which examined whether he had mischaracterized his relationship with Epstein as purely professional. Barclays declined to comment. Staley, who worked at JP Morgan until 2013, pressed the bank to keep Epstein as a client despite the disgraced financier's convictions, the FT has previously reported. Some of the newly released emails suggest Epstein was a controversial customer and was under review at the highest levels of the bank, including Chief Executive Jamie Dimon. An email the Virgin Islands says was sent in August 2008 read, "I would count Epstein's assets as a probable outflow for 2008, $120 million or so. I can't imagine it will stay, pending Dimon review." The complaint also cites emails that alleges show employees at JP Morgan raised concerns about Epstein at various stages. It includes a 2010 email from a member of the bank's risk management division that read, "See below new allegations of an investigation related to child trafficking. Are you still comfortable with this client, who is now a registered sex offender?" In a January 2011 review of Epstein's accounts, the complaint says the bank concluded there were no material updates and noted that Jess Staley discussed the topic with Jeffrey Epstein, who replied that there was no truth to the allegations, no evidence, and was not expecting any problems. JP Morgan declined to comment beyond court filings from the bank's lawyers, who have previously characterized the complaint as meritless. Staley himself is not a defendant in the lawsuit and has consistently denied knowledge of Epstein's sexual abuse. Kathleen Harris, a lawyer for Staley, declined to comment. Harris told the FT in 2021 that her client had no involvement in any way of alleged crimes committed by Mr. Epstein, and code words were never used by Mr. Staley in any of the communications with Mr. Epstein, ever. The cache of 1,200 emails provided by JP Morgan to regulators in the US and UK also form the core of the UK regulators' probe against Staley, which he's currently appealing. Another email included in the filing was sent in November 2009, when Epstein was under home confinement in Florida after being released on charges of soliciting a minor for prostitution in the state. The United States Virgin Islands said it was sent while Staley was presumably visiting Little St. James, Epstein's private island. "So when all hell breaks loose and the world is crumbling, I will come here and be at peace. Presently I'm in the hot tub with a glass of white wine. This is an amazing place, truly amazing. Next time we're here together, I owe you much, and I deeply appreciate our friendship. I have few so profound," Staley wrote. A month later, in early December, Staley messaged, "I realize the danger in sending this email, but it was great to be able, today, to give you, in New York City, a long, heartfelt hug." The next day, Epstein sent an email that contained a picture of a young woman, which remains redacted. Staley replied, "Don't tell me, a French wine?" Epstein said, "Always thoughts of alcohol." Later in December, Epstein sent another email to Staley that contained only a picture of a young woman, also still redacted. The Virgin Islands alleges that the emails, photos, and bank transfers show that JP Morgan knowingly facilitated, sustained, and concealed the human trafficking network he operated with transactions made via JP Morgan accounts. The women trafficked and abused during different intervals between at least 2003 and July 2019, when Epstein was arrested and jailed, received payments between 2003 and 2013 in excess of $1 million collectively, the complaint says. Among the recipients were women with East European surnames who were publicly and internally identified as Epstein recruiters and or victims, lawyers for the Virgin Islands claimed, including one woman identified in news reports and JP Morgan's due diligence as having been solicited by Epstein when she was 14 years old, who was paid $600,000. Epstein pleaded guilty to one count of solicitation of prostitution with a minor in 2008 in state court, and was registered to a sex offender in the Virgin Islands soon after. He died by suicide in 2019 while awaiting trial on federal charges that he trafficked underage girls. Epstein's estate reached a $105 million settlement with the Virgin Islands in December. JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank are also being sued by victims of Epstein, who accuse their lenders of aiding sex trafficking by turning a blind eye to suspicious transactions. Barclays, of course, sponsored the women's football. So that means they've been sponsoring the women's football whilst they had a sex trafficking, someone who's complicit in sex trafficking at the top of the bank. Of course, Peter Mandelson was very close to Jeffrey Epstein. So is Prince Andrew. And Peter Mandelson has been advising Keir Starmer. So it's all very murky. And of course, we don't know who lent the £800,000 to Boris Johnson just before he appointed Richard Sharp, the chairman of the BBC. We know that he's probably borrowed from a bank, but we don't know which one. If it was Barclays, that means who knows how much blackmail, how much of a blackmail network he will have been ensnared in.